I think it's a highly divisive topic, and that could be the case as well amongst First Nations peoples. That was divisive against different mobs as well. I think that there was different perspectives about how the government approached it, how the opposition approached it, and what it actually meant. I think that there was a lot of misinformation that was spread and a lot of fear-mongering that was spread. That's evident in just the slogan that came out of "if you don't know, vote no," basically saying let's be ignorant instead of deciding for ourselves and educating ourselves what it means. I think there was misinformation about the powers that this voice would have. It was an advisory body only. It wasn't going to impact any taking of anybody's land, or the irony in that. But it wasn't going to be a body that had lawmaking power or power to change laws. And it certainly didn't have the power to rewrite the Constitution or affect the Constitution, other than recognising that this is an advisory body and that this body should be consulted on things that affect First Nations people. In terms of teaching the topic, I think there's going to be an array of opinions that come out, and from different students from all different walks of life. Jarrara and I might have a different opinion on what it meant or how it got approached. But again, going back to that respectful discourse and making sure that the opinions that are being voiced in the classroom about this, especially because it was such a recent topic in our history, and a big one as well, I think it's important that teachers are mindful of the conversations that are taking place in the classroom and that everyone's being respectful in their opinions, and also recognising that for a lot of First Nations people, this was a devastating result, and this was really, it felt like 10 steps back in our history for a lot of people, and myself included. I felt very deflated about how I thought the country thought of Aboriginal people in this country, and the overwhelming vote of no was very confronting. So having that in mind when going through these topics, and knowing that it's so fresh and probably still quite raw for people, is really important in approaching that topic as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a very sensitive topic, as Emily had indicated. There's a lot of misinformation, even for mob inclusive, not knowing whether to vote yes or no, not knowing whether it would affect mob, whether it was something just to gain a vote, I suppose. I think after this vote, it caused a lot of racism, just not knowing what the vote had actually meant.
And during as well.
And during as well, correct, yeah. Like just knowing that, as you said, like it put us 10 steps back. I guess government not having rushed it, but also having not explained what it meant. I think it's just a very sensitive topic that really will have to be looked at carefully, I suppose. Like, it's healthy to kind of have these discussions, but something that can obviously go the wrong way very quickly.
I think I touched on this as well, that different First Nations people have different perspectives on this and what the voice meant, and some say it didn't go far enough, so therefore I'm voting no because this isn't good enough and we shouldn't accept anything less. Others think, oh no, that's divisive. Why would we want to separate ourselves from the rest of society? We want to be one. And then I suppose others just didn't believe that it would have any impact on the decision making of the government as well. So there were a lot of different reasons that First Nations people voted no, but then there were a lot of reasons why First Nations people voted yes, and recognising some people thought that it was a step in the right direction, even if it wasn't far enough, and that it was something to have that embedded in the Constitution, because we've had these advisory boards before, and every time a certain political party got into power, they would be abolished, and then they no longer were consulted. So this was really formalising something that was already in place for many years prior, but just making sure that it couldn't be taken out based on whoever is in control of the government at the time. Teachers are aware of what the misinformation was that was spread about this in the campaigns, and researched the main points for voting yes, the main points for voting no. I know that was put out in all of the pamphlets and the referendum before it got voted on, and being aware of probably the biggest topics of debate and what they meant. because if they're able to inform a student, even just something as simple as saying, oh, if we gave them this power, what power can they get next? Being able to say, well, actually, this is an advisory board only, and they don't have any lawmaking power, so it's not giving any lawmaking powers away. That's education, and that's actually correcting the misinformation that was spread by mainstream media and by other political parties. So having that at the forefront and being educated on it, I think is really important to correct the misinformation, because that was so widespread.